Hello, Lisa Richard here with Loving Energy Recharge, coming in to talk about the energy for the week of February the 24th going through to the 29th. Now we're starting off this week in the full moon in the sign of Virgo, which is an earth sign. And that typically brings forward the properties of being very logical, very grounded, having a great eye for detail, but also trying to be a little bit of a perfectionist. Now, we just went through 3 weeks of some really strong emotional energy. And for those that were following with their human design chart, you may have noticed that we had each one of the 3 solar plex gates that are leading towards the root center activated one after the other. What this was doing was bringing forward a lot of energy within our solar plex center. It was allowing us to get a taste of each one of the 3 waves that were within there. So we have an individual wave, we have a tribal wave, and we have an abstract wave. Now, being that it was pulling its energy from the root center, that was all about the pressure to evolve, and it comes in the form of stress. So we had a lot of opportunities here to really get to notice our stress levels, how our stresses tend to spark those emotions, how they tend to create a reactiveness inside of us. And it was stimulating a lot of energies such as, trying to get clear on, well, what's our needs versus our desires? And what is a true need versus a supposed need? So we had a lot of things in there kind of being shifted around. We also went into what was known as the ring of the whirlwind. So if you've literally felt yourself kind of being pulled up into this energy like you've been in a tornado and you haven't been able to get your footing and your grounding for quite some times and life just kind of spits you out all of a sudden, well, now you're landing. Now you're starting to get your stability, but first, all of that stuff had to clear out of the way. So we are embracing this time now of coming back down into the root of who we are in our physical feet, in our legs, touching the earth and feeling more connected in this full moon in the sign of Virgo. You're also going to get a lot of energies now that is bringing forward what you've just been through over the last 3 weeks. And we're still have an activation within our solar plex. We've just moved into gate 37 in human design, which is all about the family. So you're still working through that emotional energy, the power of the emotional awareness center. We're still very, very young in this emotional center. So we have a lot of room here for growing, for noticing how our emotions impact others, how they impact ourselves, how sometimes we tend to compromise our truth and give in to someone else's emotional manipulation, or we get really creative in ways of using emotions to get our perceived needs met. So we have to bring some humor into this to allow ourselves some grace in becoming the observer to see, well, how do our shadow tendencies play out? How can we start bringing more of the gifts online? And that's why we have this new channel called The Inner Alchemist. We always have these ingredients every week that are in the energetic field. So we have an ability to take a look at everything, to acknowledge that, yes, the shadow exists, the dilemma exists, the gift exists, and the highest essence of light also exists. We have the free will choice to choose for ourselves. Well, what are we going to focus on? So we're in this gate 37 this week. It's all about the family, and now it has pivoted slightly to pull us towards the heart center. And the heart center is bringing the tribal energy forward. This is all about the family, the community, the material world, resources. If you have your human design chart, and if you don't, I highly encourage you to grab a copy. You can go to my website and grab a free chart for yourself. That is through the International Human Design School. I don't take credit for that. That was founded by Uru Hu. I am a certified guide underneath that umbrella. But when you have your human design chart, you're going to want to look at your heart center in there, the little triangle, the smallest center within there. And it matters if it's colored in or it's not colored in. And I'll tell you why. If it is colored in, we call that defined in human design. And that means you have very reliable, consistent energy in handling your finances and resources and knowing how to bargain within the material world. You also have very consistent willpower, which is energy to make a commitment and stick to your commitment and make promises that you can keep. Now, there's only 30-some% of the population that do have it defined. So what happens for a larger portion of the population is it is white in the body graph. It is conditioned to believe that it has the ability to make a lot of promises and get a lot of things done, but it doesn't have consistent energy in the form of willpower. So what happens is we make an awful lot of commitments, we make an awful lot of promises, and then our energies aren't there to match it, and we end up breaking those commitments, breaking those promises to ourselves and to others. And then that feeds a dialogue in the mind that goes, well, I just let somebody down again. I can't do anything. I better prove myself and I better make up for what I've done. That spirals us back down in this energy that then stimulates that solar plex, that emotional wave that is trying to reach up there towards that heart center, that will. So we're really using this energy right now. We're using the properties of the full moon in Earth to make ourselves grounded and rooted, to pay attention to those details, to really get clear on our heart center, to notice, are we designed to be able to have consistent energy that will stick to our commitments and help us to keep our promises? And if we don't have consistent energy there, can we change our language to become one of, I will try, I will see how I feel, I'm not going to make a promise, but let me check in with you to see where my energy level is at. When we learn to change our dialogue or communication between ourselves and others, we are more gentle in our mindset that is feeding the energy to our hearts, to our emotions, to what we're projecting out there, to family and to communities and the tribe. And that is what this gate is really here to teach us as we're flowing through the gate of the family this week. And we want to look at the shadow tendencies in here, because when we notice how the shadow plays out within ourselves and we see how it plays out in others, then we can choose to implement the gift aspect. So here's how we do the inner alchemy for this week. Now, the shadow in here, and I'm just looking at my notes, is all about weakness. We all have weaknesses. We tend to avoid them, or we tend to really focus on them and be hard on ourselves for not being able to do something. And we start this dialogue in our mind that says, well, I can't do that. That's too hard. I'm not capable. I'm not good enough. And you hear the power of that conviction. And it's like, as soon as you say you cannot do something, you're right. You cannot do it because you've already told yourself it is impossible. That's the shadow. The shadow is going to keep you in the state of submission. I'm just going to give up. I'm a victim to my circumstance. There's no way for me to move forward. So the shadow also comes in the essence of being powerless. And we know that we are powerful creators. We're here to change that dialogue around. So how do we do that in this energy? Well, first of all, you have to get really honest with yourself of where are your areas of weaknesses? What is your greatest weakness? And maybe it is a relationship with somebody in your life right now. Maybe it's your finances. Maybe it's something that you're working on within yourself that you know will be of your highest benefit. and you don't want to judge it. You just want to have that honest conversation and say, okay, you know what, this is what I'm facing. This is my weakest area. Now, how can I love it? How can I put the power of love into helping myself to embrace the weakness in a sense of knowing when can I ask for help? Who can I ask for help? And not to just hand it off to somebody else and say, here, you do this. It's to claim the responsibility and to embed the knowledge that you can learn how to deal with these things. You can love your weaknesses and build upon them to help yourself become stronger and stronger and stronger. And a really good way to phase this, and how Richard Rudd puts it in the book of the Gene Keys, in my own contemplation of that, is when you're raising children, you want to create independent future adults, right? That is the purpose of being a parent. So you're going to look at the child and you're going to help the child to learn many different things for itself. And that child is often going to look back at you and say, you know what, this is too hard. I don't know how to do it. Or they're going to have a tantrum. They're going to be all over the place. They're going to be emotional. They're going to want to slam the doors, right? We've all gone through periods of our lives where we just feel like this is impossible. I can't pass this test. I can't ride this bike. I can't drive a car. I'm never going to date again. Whatever those stories are, we can look out into the world and find a reflection of how that energy is playing out. Then you can find the same reflection in a responsible adult, an adult who is stepping in from the highest form of love, going, let me sit with you. Let me help you to figure this out. Let us teach it in a way that is easy for you to understand, because sometimes there's just a learning disability. You know, some of us are visual learners, some of us are verbal, some of us are hands-on, some of us need to go back and do some research. So it's learning, how do you learn? How can you take your weaknesses and start to build a plan to gain some more confidence in yourself, to build some more support around yourself? And that's where we're feeling this leading us towards the sense of the family and the community. We want to really focus on the weakest link and make it stronger. That is the essence of survival at its highest. It's not about only the most strongest survive. You know, that's right in the animal kingdom. But if we're here to learn how to nurture ourselves and to grow our children into beautiful, strong, independent adults that can really think for themselves in this world of emotional energy and manipulation and all these other things, we want to set them up for success. So that also means that there's an inner child within you, that your inner parent, yourself, is now going to have that same conversation with them. So looking at your weaknesses, looking at where you tend to be the victim, using this full moon energy in the sign of Virgo to get really grounded and rooted and attentive to those details and go, all right, we can formulate a plan here. We can figure out a way to be creative in this energy to strengthen this weakness and make some great forward momentum in this and drop our victim mindset, change that dialogue, and start to feed that self-confidence into the heart. The heart for a lot of us, especially if you're undefined in your human design chart, is the area of low self-esteem, self-worth, self-confidence. So we want to change that. You want to treat it like a sponge and wring out that old dialogue, that old mindset, those old energies, and stand in the divinity of who you are. Because gate 37 also brings in the energy of the goddess in the form of the mother. And there's a mother within us all, whether you are masculine or feminine. This is the yin energy. So we're moving into learning about the gift in this gate, which is all about equality. And equality is the balance of the divine masculine and the divine feminine within ourselves. Now, you might have heard this being referred to as yang energy for the masculine and yin energy for the feminine. And we are equal parts. There's times where we have to bring the masculine energy, the yang energy online that needs that fire, needs that drive, needs the conviction, needs to get a lot of stuff done and to have energy to move forward. And then there's another side where, sometimes we need this gentleness. We need the yin energy. We need to be more flexible. We need to reach out for support. We need to nurture ourselves. So we're always in this state of learning to tune into our body, to tune into the energy, to tune into what is this teaching me? And when I'm feeling at my weakness, and maybe I'm feeling very emotionally vulnerable, having come out of 3 weeks of that intense whirlwind energy that was designed to shake loose anything that was not serving you and to bring up to your conscious awareness those things that require more emotional maturity on your part and more areas within your stress management to help you feel safe in this human body and safe in your journey here on earth that you came to do. So everything is designed to be the greatest aspects of love, even though sometimes it feels like, love is sometimes that really strict parent that is not letting you get away with anything. And that is the energy that we're in. We're really being poured in with a lot more light, a lot more stimulation to wake up and wake up quickly. So there's a lot more being thrown back at us going, you know what, this is your responsibility. You're going to have to deal with it. You made this mess. You made your bed, sleep in it, right? We've heard a lot of those phrases. And we've had a pattern of going, well, I'm the victim. They did it. It's that person's fault. If they did something differently, then I would be better. If the world would change, then I could change. And the guides are saying, no more of that. It is not going to work any longer. So everything is coming back at us in the deepest sense of love to go, you're capable of handling this. You're capable of looking at your weaknesses and loving yourself through the weaknesses and going, it's okay for us not to have the answers. And it's okay for us not to know. And it is more than okay for us to ask for help. And when we learn to ask for help, that's where we see communities getting stronger and families getting stronger and soul families, like-minded individuals coming together. So as we allow ourselves to be more vulnerable, more real, to shed away those masks and those illusions and say, you know what? I don't have my shit together. And that's okay, because we're all so perfectly imperfect. So maybe this week you can really add some grace to noticing your weaknesses. Maybe you can share that grace with somebody else as they're struggling within their own. And perhaps you can together be courageous and saying, you know what? Let's just try the best we can to figure this out, to build some strength within ourselves, because empowerment, self-empowerment, is the path to freedom. Knowing that you can trust in your ability to make the decisions that are right for you and to stand in the truth of who you are is the greatest gift that you can offer to yourself. So let us band together in this energy. Let us focus on doing that inner alchemy as we work through the shadows of weakness. We lean into the dilemma of submission, trying to be that victim, and we embrace the gift of equality, knowing when to bring in the divine masculine, knowing when to bring in the divine feminine, and finding the balance within yourself. So this is really about coming into the presence of you, your human, your vessel that is housing your spirit, and trusting what your body is saying to you. Now, before I end this segment, I also want to point out that Virgo is tied to digestive. And it just so happens that when we look at the human design chart and where gate 37, this week's energy is coming out of the sacral center and heading towards the heart, it is heading towards gate 40 in the heart, which is linked to the stomach. So a really good way that this energy is going to talk to you this week is your stomach is going to be either quite upset and active if you're in a lot of the shadow energy, or you're going to feel some detoxification as things let go, or perhaps you're going to feel some gentleness, some room within that stomach, some ease, some grace as you reach out to get some help doing those things that you just know you need to get off your plate. So this is how our body talks to us. This is how we can learn to recognize how the energy flows through the organs, through the systems, how all these subtle things within the network of energy within the world, how it communicates to us. And the energies aren't here to hurt us. We're in this web, we're in this matrix, and we're here to learn how to listen to that, to pay attention to that, to know that we're a part of life. Life isn't happening to you. The planets didn't line up this week to focus just on you, to give you a bad day or to give you a hard time. And, I've been there. Trust me, I used to think that way, that it was, everything's out to get me, right? Everything's lining up just to get little tiny me. It doesn't work that way. We're here to just move with the ebbs and the flows of the natural rhythms of life. And when we really learn to come away from it's all about me mentality, and we come into the deeper W, the we mentality, we are in this together, we can get through this, we can evolve, we can become vulnerable, we can lean into more trust, it makes it easier. So remind yourself that whatever your weakness is, there is millions of people around the world that are sharing the same weakness as you. It might appear differently. They're walking their different story, their own version of it, but you're not unique. You're not special in your weakness. You're not the only one that's going through this. So give yourself some grace. If millions of other people can find a way through, chances are you can as well. And there's probably a lot of people there that can share their knowledge and support there if you dare to seek out and connect and find it. So I'm sending you all much love this week as we ride through this energy. I would love to hear your comments if you're resonating with this and you want to share your experience with others. If you have that gate 37 in your chart and this is very familiar with you, those shared experiences are helpful to others. But even if you don't have gate 37 in your chart, we all have it this week. We are all resonating with different gates and properties at all times. So you're not just your birth sign, you're not just your human design chart, you're not just your gene keys profile. You are everything. But you do have a certain program that is there to help you really come home to you, to recognize your patterns, your tendencies, your dominant shadows, so that you do come more inwards. That is what it's designed for. Spirituality is designed to get you to look back inside yourself and not out into the world for your answers. So it's all time for us to come home to self and to trust in self and to learn as much as you can about the way you interact with the world and how the world is interacting with you. So I'm excited. I'm excited for this period of time. I'm excited to allow these messages to channel through as I'm stepping into my own growth and my own awareness. And I hope you stay with me on this journey as we travel through inner alchemy. You have the power inside to do all the transformation that is needed. Sending much love to you all.